Well, it's the business end of the footy season for 2025, and here at All Aussie Rules, we're going to bring you a run home video today. We're going to be doing our best Rain Man impression and see if we can't work out who might be the final eight teams. It's down to nine. We've got to get it down to eight. Let's see how we go. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules YouTube channel. We've got another video coming your way today, and it is taking a look at the run home for all the teams left in contention for finals, realistically left in contention for finals. With 4 rounds to go, we're down to 9 teams technically that can realistically make the final series. So we're going to go through them one by one, have a look at who they've got left this season. We're going to try and keep this shortish video, and then we'll wrap it up at the end with a summary of it all and a look to where maybe we can predict each team will finish going into the finals. So stick around. We're going to go team by team. We'll start at the top of the ladder as of right this moment and work our way down to ninth. So starting with Collingwood up first. They're sitting first on the ladder after round 20. 15 wins, 4 losses, 60 points on the board. There are only 1 win ahead of Adelaide on the ladder. Their percentage is now worse than Adelaide as well, who have played some really good football recently. So it's starting to get a little bit tight up the top. We've got Collingwood, though. They played Brisbane at the MCG, then Hawthorn at the MCG, Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, and Melbourne at the MCG. Next 3 weeks are huge for Collingwood. They play 3 of the other top 5 teams, so Brisbane, Hawthorn, and Adelaide. 2 of them at the MCG, 1 of them off a 5-day break, the Hawthorn game, and then they play Adelaide in Adelaide Oval. That's going to be a really tough run for them before they finish with Melbourne at the MCG. They've had some pretty decent results against Melbourne over the last couple of years, so I wouldn't expect that will be too difficult for them. But these next 3 weeks are huge. They win a couple of those, they guarantee top 2 spot. If they beat Adelaide and Brisbane, they pretty much guarantee top spot. Basically how it wraps up, I guess. It's going to be an interesting final 4 weeks for them. If they were to drop the next 3, all of a sudden, they'll still make finals, but all of a sudden they'll be looking like maybe not top 4. So all to play for. 3 contenders, 1 non-contender for the Pies. Next up, second on the ladder is Adelaide. They're 1 game below, as we said. Their percentage is better than Collingwood's. So if they can get an extra win than Collingwood, that would put them to the top. They play Collingwood, so if they beat the Pies in round 23 and win the other games, they will finish on top of the ladder. It is that simple for them. They have Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval this week, then the Eagles at Optus Stadium, Collingwood at Adelaide Oval, North at Marvel. So their 2 home games are their tough ones, Hawthorn and Collingwood, 5th and 1st on the ladder. Their 2 away games are against the bottom 2 teams on the ladder right now, and potentially the 2 worst in-form teams in the competition. So you'd expect that they win both their away games, but both of their home games could potentially go either way. You'd probably back Adelaide to win them both based on current form and being at home. If they were in Melbourne, completely different story. But I think in Adelaide, you've got to back them as a better than 50-50 chance to win those. So they've got a pretty good run home, mixing tough games with some easier games and a really good hit out, I think, across 4 weeks for them to get themselves primed and ready for finals. Third up is Brisbane, another team that has a pretty tough run home. Possibly one of the tougher runs home of any team in the competition. They have Collingwood at the MCG in round 21, followed by Sydney at the Gabba, so they do host Sydney. They should probably win that one. Then they head all the way across the country to WA to play Freo at Optus Stadium, which could potentially be a massive game, depending on how results are going before that, but might be very important for both teams. And then they finish up with Hawthorn back at the Gabba. So 3 teams that they play against are contending teams. Sydney are the one team that's just outside of that contention at the moment for finals. So not an easy run home for Brisbane by any stretch of the imagination. They go to Melbourne this week and beat Collingwood, though. all of a sudden top 4 is definitely on, top 2 still a potential chance. So if they win the next 2 games, Collingwood, Sydney, that is really huge for them. That will guarantee them definitely finals, but almost guarantee them top 4 as well. So a big couple weeks coming up for the Lions. Geelong, they're sitting 4th on the ladder at the moment, half a game behind Brisbane, just 1 game behind Adelaide and 2 games behind Collingwood as it currently stands. They have arguably, I think it's pretty obvious actually, the easiest run home across the final 4 weeks. Is that a good thing, bad thing? It's debatable. It's up to a matter of opinion. I don't think it will matter. They've had plenty of good hitouts this year against tough teams and played really well. So Port Adelaide down at GMHBA this weekend. Then the Bombers also at GMHBA. You'd imagine they'll both be quite easy wins. They then play Sydney at the SCG. That is their toughest game. And then they finish with Richmond at the MCG. You'd think that they definitely win 3 of those and probably should win all 4. Doesn't mean they will, but just on paper, that's how it looks. That would be a really good run into finals. They win all 4, they're going to obviously finish top 4. But depending on how other games go, the fact that Collingwood, Collingwood, Brisbane, and Adelaide, the 3 teams above them, all kind of play each other. Collingwood play 2 of them. Adelaide play 1 of them, and obviously Brisbane also play 1 of them. So there's plenty of like crisscrosses up in that top 3. So all of a sudden, you keep winning games in this spot where Geelong, Hawthorn, GWS, Fremantle all are right now, and technically Gold Coast. You keep winning, there's a chance to jump teams. And this for Geelong is a really good opportunity. Those 4 are all definitely winnable games. Hawthorn currently 5th on the ladder, equal with Geelong, just down on percentage. They have a really tough run home as well. So they've got a very similar run home to Collingwood. In fact, it's basically the same because if you look at it, they both play Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, and the other one is playing each other. So they have the same run home, just kind of slightly different in the order and where the games are. They've got Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval this weekend, followed by Collingwood at the MCG, Melbourne at the MCG, and finish off with a Brisbane at the Gabba. So 2 trips away from Melbourne in the final 4 weeks against 2 quality teams. It's a tough run, don't get me wrong. But if they come out good in it, they will finish potentially top 4 and have a really good leg to stand on going into finals and with a bit of confidence. Their record isn't too bad against top 9 teams so far this year, but their numbers aren't great in those games compared to what they do elsewhere. So I think this is a really good opportunity for them to prove that they are capable of being a top 4 or maybe top 8 team and really get that confidence up heading into finals. 3 challenging teams, 1 that's not in contention. It's not an easy run. There's no doubt about it. I don't think they miss finals. I can see them beating Adelaide this week. I can definitely see them beating Collingwood in 2 weeks. The Gabba will be a tough one. So they win 3. They potentially finish top 4. They only win 1. All of a sudden, they've got probably an away elimination final. So they've got a tough run home. There's no doubt about that. GWS are 6th on the ladder. Same wins, less percentage than the previous 2. They've also got a big run home. It's not the toughest run home by any stretch of the imagination. The form that they've been in recently, I think they've won 6 or 7 in a row heading into this little run. This weekend is their biggest game. No doubt about it. They play the Bulldogs at Marvel. If they go down to Marvel Stadium and beat the Doggies, they almost effectively knock the Doggies out of finals race. And at the same time put themselves well and truly in that top 4 race. Which would be huge. They're not in that dissimilar spot to where they were this time last year, and they went on to make it into finals and make it into the top 4 before being bundled out in straight sets. But you'd have to think that they're going to put in good performances in all 4 of those games. Bulldogs Marvel, that's a tough one. Then Manuka Oval for North Melbourne, they should win that one. Gold Coast at People First Stadium on the Gold Coast, that's a really tough game and one that potentially will have big bearings on the end result of the final ladder before hosting St Kilda at NG Stadium to finish the season. They definitely win 2 of those. If they can take one of the others, they guarantee themselves into finals. If they win all 4, maybe top 4 is still a genuine opportunity for the Giants. Next up, 7th on the ladder at the current stage is Fremantle. Once again, same amount of wins as the previous 3 teams, just down on percentage. They need to make use of the next 2 weeks, I think. Not just to win the games, but get some percentage as well. They've got Carlton at Optus Stadium this week, Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. If you think back to this time last year, they were well and truly in contention. I could be completely wrong here, but I think they might have been 3rd on the ladder with like 4 weeks to go. They then lost their last 4 and missed finals. So they won't want to do a repeat of that. The next 2 weeks are the 2 winnable ones. Home to Carlton, Adelaide Oval for Port Adelaide, who's not in great form. They win both of those. They're pretty much safe in finals. Not guaranteed, but safe-ish. Because then they've got 2 tough weeks to finish. Hosting Brisbane at Optus Stadium is never easy. Brisbane have travelled really well this year, so that won't be an easy game. And then they finish in round 24 going to Melbourne to play Bulldogs at Marvel. That game could potentially have massive bearings on the finals in the last weekend. That's probably almost the biggest game of that last round. If the Bulldogs and Fremantle and Gold Coast and a couple others are still in that fighting range in the lower half of that bottom 8, that game could have massive effects. So a couple easier games that they have to take advantage of over the next 2 weeks, Fremantle, because the last 2 weeks will not be easy games for them. 8th on the ladder right now is Gold Coast Suns. They've played 1 less game, so realistically, they're pretty similar spot to Geelong, Hawthorn, GWS, and Fremantle. The percentage is pretty healthy as well, puts them in that range of Hawthorn, GWS percentage. So if they get that extra win, all of a sudden right in contention with those teams. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There's obviously 5 games for them across the remainder of the season. They start this weekend with Richmond at People First Stadium. You'd think they have to win that. I know they lost to them earlier in the year at Marvel Stadium, but this should be a lot easier for them. Carlton at Marvel, if they win that one, all of a sudden they're looking at potentially a home elimination final. GWS at People First, that's their tough game in the run home. If they win that one, then anything's a possibility, because Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval is definitely winnable, and Essendon at People First Stadium is also a very winnable game. You'd think on paper they win 4 of those 5 with a chance at 5 out of 5. If they win all 5, that would be huge for the Gold Coast Suns. It'd be huge for the end of their season and really give them, like, they're a little bit off at the moment. Like, where are they? They're only realistically a game outside the top 4 and maybe a bit of percentage, and they've got an extra game. So genuinely a chance for top 4 for Gold Coast this year. They should definitely win 4 of those 5 games, I think, on paper at least. One final team to look at before we summarise all 9 teams. The Bulldogs, they're 9th on the ladder. They're currently 1 game behind Gold Coast, 2 games behind Fremantle in 7th. They basically need to win all 4 games. If they lose to GWS this weekend at Marvel, that might be the end of them, but still technically will have a chance. But this is a huge game for them, as is that Fremantle one in round 24. Melbourne at the MCG and West Coast at Marvel, they're definite winnable games, and not just winnable, they should win them. They'll probably get pretty good percentage, not that they need percentage because they have pretty good percentage already. So if they win the next 3, that 4th game is going to be huge against Fremantle. Whereas if they lose to GWS this week, they're going to be chasing. They're going to be chasing, and they'll be a long way back. Potentially 2 games outside the 8 with 3 to play won't be a great spot to be. But their percentage is really good, so you can't completely write them off if they do lose this week, but it will certainly make things difficult for them. Here's a little summary table of all 9 teams. I've already got them ordered in their expected finished position based on a few things. So obviously, first column is their position at the moment. Then we've got the should wins. So they're games that they should be winning on paper. 50-50s are games that I can see well and truly going either way, wins or losses, who knows. And should lose, there's only one of them on paper, and that's Fremantle against the Bulldogs, at Marvel Stadium. Total points is where their total points would equal if that works. Obviously, 4 points for a should win, 2 points for a 50-50, 0 points for a should lose, which ends up giving us a ladder of Collingwood, Adelaide, Geelong, Brisbane, GWS, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Fremantle, and the Bulldogs. As you can see, there's not much in it. Like Bulldogs through to GWS is looking at maybe a game and a half, 2 games at most. It's gonna be down to these games where they play each other. That's going to be hugely influential on this. We'll get to the last column in a second. If this was the final ladder, would have a Collingwood-Brisbane qualifying final in Melbourne, which would be huge. Obviously, a rematch of 2 years ago grand final. Would have an Adelaide-Geelong qualifying final. That would be in Adelaide, another huge game. Obviously, Geelong went to Adelaide to play Port Adelaide in a qualifying final last year and absolutely destroyed them. And then your bottom 4 of the top 8, your 2 elimination finals would be GWS hosting Fremantle. Fremantle did beat GWS over in Sydney earlier this year. And Gold Coast Hawthorn, that would be a little spicy little game, I reckon. A little bit of heat up on the Gold Coast for their first ever final. That would be interesting. So now if we look over at the range, that's the range of total points I can see them finishing on. So that's using their current amount of points. Any game that should win counts as a win. And then any 50-50 games counts as to go to their maximum. So Collingwood, I can see being either 64 to 76, a little bit of a range there. Adelaide, also 64 as their minimum, which is obviously Collingwood's minimum as well. But Adelaide could get up to 72. Geelong a 64 to a 68. Brisbane, a little bit lower at 62, but could get to 70. GWS a 60 to 68. Gold Coast 60 to 68 as well. Hawthorn 56 to 68. Fremantle 56 to 64. And Bulldogs 56 to 60. That tells you that it could be very close across the board. Like you look at it, there's only one team that can't get to 64, which is Collingwood and Adelaide's and Geelong's minimum. Realistically, I think you're going to see a lot of changes. I think up and down, moving around. There's a lot of social media posts this week that I've seen that Hawthorn are the team that are going to miss out. This suggests that it will be the Bulldogs, but I think that's going to rely heavily on what happens this weekend. If they can get through GWS this weekend, all of a sudden the Doggies are probably going to play finals. But also a lot rides on Hawthorn because they play 3 teams in that top 5 in the remaining 4 weeks. So they beat those teams, they will play finals. If they lose all 3 of those, all of a sudden they probably miss finals. So it's going to be an interesting and fascinating final 4 weeks of football. Let me know in the comments below who you think's going to miss out. This suggests the Bulldogs. I can see it being anyone from Hawthorn, Fremantle, Bulldogs. There was a point a couple of weeks ago I could see it being Brisbane. I think they'll be fine. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating. So let me know who you think it will be. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that noti bell so you get notified of every video so you don't miss any. We do 2 podcasts every single week that go live here, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We go through previewing and reviewing football. The weekend's action. We also will have some AFLW action content coming up, so go check that out. Check out all the social medias. It's all Aussie Rules everywhere. So go find us. Plenty of content every single day all over the internet, so go check it out. That's our run home. It's going to be a fascinating finish to the season. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see how it plays out. That's everything I've got for you. I'll catch you in the next video.